My name's Marcus. I'm 32, work in tech, and I've always been the dependable one in the family. You know the type, quiet, responsible, good with numbers, bad with drama. Or at least that's what I told myself. I guess there's a part of me that always thought if I just stayed calm, stayed generous, maybe the people I loved would finally treat me with the same respect I offered them. But that's not how my family works. I'm the youngest of three. My sister, Danny, is the oldest, charming, ruthless, and somehow always broke. My brother, Kevin, is the middle child. Golden boy. Football star in high school, washed-out car salesman by 30. But in my parents' eyes, still the pride of the family. Meanwhile, I was the one fixing their Wi-Fi at midnight, helping my mom navigate online banking, covering gaps in rent when someone's check got held up again, and quietly footing the bill when birthdays or holidays rolled around and nobody else had the funds. I didn't complain. I was making good money, living in a modest apartment, and figured it was just what family did for each other. That changed slowly. It didn't hit all at once. It chipped away. 1,000 little cuts. Like when I covered Danny's rent for 2 months and later saw her on Instagram at a music festival in Miami. Or when I helped Kevin buy a used car after his third DUI and he told his girlfriend it was a gift from our parents. Not once did anyone thank me, but I still didn't say anything. I just kept giving because it felt easier than fighting. The tipping point began with an invite. My niece, Ellie, was turning 10, Kevin's daughter. I actually really like Ellie's smart, kind, not yet jaded by the chaos that surrounds her. I'd gotten her this little beginner's telescope a few months back after she told me she liked looking at the stars, and she spent an hour the next night texting me blurry photos of the moon and asking questions about Jupiter. For her birthday, I wanted to do something special. I found this venue near the lake that hosts kids' parties, food, games, pony rides, the whole thing. Pricey, yeah, but I figured she deserved it. Kevin and I had a brief conversation about it. I offered to cover the venue and catering. He said he'd handle decorations and entertainment. Knowing Kevin, that meant I'd be paying for 90% of it. But again, I didn't argue. The day of the party arrived. I showed up a little late because of work, but I'd already arranged the payments, double-confirmed everything with the staff, and even threw in a last-minute cupcake tower when I heard Ellie liked red velvet. I walked in expecting some kind of normal family chaos. Instead, I got ambushed. As soon as I stepped into the party room, it was like I didn't exist. No, thanks for setting all this up. No greeting from Kevin or Danny. I saw my mom sitting with her sisters, laughing, sipping wine like she wasn't 3 months behind on her utilities that I'd been quietly covering. My dad nodded at me from a distance, but didn't get up. I spotted Ellie across the room and gave her a little wave. She lit up and ran over to hug me. That, at least, felt good. About 30 minutes in, someone handed me a paper plate with half a slice of pizza and a warm soda. I didn't care. I just sat near the back and watched Ellie open her presents. She got dolls, gift cards, a few clothes, and then Kevin handed her a box with the same telescope I'd already given her months ago. Except this one had my name crossed out on the label, literally scribbled over. I stared at it for a moment, wondering if I was seeing things. Then Kevin turned toward the group and said with a chuckle, "Yeah, had to upgrade the one Marcus gave her. It was cute, but, starter stuff." The room laughed. My uncle snorted so loudly I jumped. My mom shook her head with this performative, exaggerated smile like she was saying, "What can you do?" And then Kevin said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're just the pathetic one we keep around for money." I blinked. He was still smiling, like it was some kind of joke. Danny laughed and muttered something to my mom. My dad didn't even look up from his phone. I waited, just for one person to say, "Hey, not cool," or "That was too far." But no one said anything. Everyone laughed. My niece looked confused. She didn't laugh. She looked at me like she was trying to figure out why the grown-ups thought that was funny. And I don't know how to explain the way that moment felt. Like something cracked deep in my chest. Not snapped, just cracked. Quietly. A clean, hairline fracture. I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the table or break anything. I just placed my paper plate down, untouched, and walked out. As I stepped outside, I could still hear them laughing. Music thumped from the speaker Kevin had brought. A few kids ran by me chasing a balloon animal. I sat in my car for a moment, hands on the wheel, just breathing. Then I remembered something. Kevin had never actually paid for his half of the event. In fact, the venue manager had called me just 2 days earlier to confirm the final amount, and I had agreed to put it all on my card, just to get it done. I told her Kevin would reimburse me before the event. He hadn't. I reached into my glove compartment, pulled out the folder with the venue's info, and flipped to the page with the cancellation clause. I wasn't going to cancel the party, obviously. But I also remembered the contract included a clause for immediate full payment on-site or services would be paused. Paused. Not canceled. Not refunded. Just stopped. I looked at the clock. 4:52 p.m. The second half of the party, dinner service, the magician, and the boat ride was scheduled to start at 5 o'clock sharp. And Kevin hadn't paid a dime. I pulled out my phone, dialed the number, and waited. Hello, Lakeview Events. This is Sandra. Hi, this is Marcus Carter. I was the one who booked the Lexington room for today. Oh yes, Mr. Carter. Everything's been running smoothly so far. Just confirming, will the rest of the payment be completed soon? Our coordinator mentioned the remaining balance is still pending. I smiled. Actually, I've decided not to move forward with that payment. A pause. I'm sorry. I'll be covering the amount I initially agreed to, but I won't be paying Kevin's portion. And I'd like you to enforce the clause, please. The one about service halts for unpaid balances. Another pause. Longer this time. Understood, Mr. Carter. We'll begin transitioning the room accordingly at 5 o'clock. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing. Can you make sure the announcement is made clearly? I don't want anyone confused about why the entertainment is stopping. Of course. I hung up, rolled down my window, and listened as the minutes ticked by. The music kept playing. The sky was pinking up over the lake. Then, at exactly 5:01, I heard a faint chime, followed by a woman's voice on the loudspeaker. Attention guests. Due to an unresolved balance, the second half of the Lexington room party package has been paused until payment is completed. We apologize for the inconvenience. The music stopped. The magician, halfway through setting up, began packing his things. A server with trays of food turned abruptly and walked away from the banquet tables. Kids started whining. Parents looked around in confusion. And then I saw Kevin storm out through the front doors, red-faced and pacing, his phone already to his ear. He didn't see me sitting there in my car, but I saw him, and I waited. Because this was only the beginning. Kevin paced like a man who just realized the spotlight wasn't on him anymore. His phone was pressed so hard against his ear I half expected it to fuse with his skull. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but judging by the frantic arm gestures, the way he kept looking back at the venue, and how red his face was turning, he was definitely not leaving a Yelp review. I didn't drive away. Not yet. I just watched from the edge of the parking lot as the chaos started to bloom. Danny came outside next, clacking her heels on the pavement like they owed her money, shouting something about how this was supposed to be the big moment. Then came my mom, clutching her purse, eyes wide, muttering the way she always did when things didn't go as planned. This is embarrassing, so embarrassing. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so them. Not one of them looked around and said, "Wait, how did this happen?" They weren't shocked that something went wrong. They were shocked they couldn't find someone else to clean it up. I finally turned the key in the ignition, just as Kevin spotted me. He stormed over, waving his hands. Marcus, what did you do?" I rolled down the window halfway. "You mean the venue? I paid my part. The rest was on you. You remember, right? You said you'd cover half. We agreed you'd handle it, and I'd reimburse you." "No, you said that." "I never agreed." "You know how I know?" "Because I recorded the call." He froze. I wasn't bluffing. Not this time. I'd learned the hard way, start documenting everything, especially with family. "You're ruining her party," he hissed. "No," I said calmly. "You are. You opened your mouth. You made the joke. You made it clear exactly what you think of me. You think I'm just a wallet. An ATM with no feelings." "Come on, it was just a joke," he said, voice softening in that fake, wheedling tone he always used when things didn't go his way. "Jokes are funny," I said. "You laughed at me. In front of everyone. With my money paying for the party." He didn't respond to that. He just clenched his jaw and looked back toward the venue. Guests were starting to leave. A few parents gave him side eyes as they walked by. One little kid tripped over a tipped-over balloon stand and burst into tears. Then came the cherry on top, Ellie. She came out of the building, her party hat lopsided, her red velvet cupcake smeared on her dress, and confusion written all over her face. "Daddy," she said, "why did they stop everything? Where's the boat ride?" Kevin dropped his gaze. His lips pressed into a tight line, and for the first time in years, I felt something other than guilt or obligation around him. I felt pity. Not for him, exactly, but for how empty his life must be to measure worth in what he could take from other people. I rolled up my window. Slowly. Deliberately. Then I backed out of the parking spot. As I pulled out of the lot, I caught one last glimpse in the rearview mirror. Kevin standing there like a statue, phone still in one hand, daughter tugging at the other, while the rest of the guests drifted off like sand through an open palm. The fallout started that night. First it was the texts. Mom, what happened at the party? Ellie's crying, and everyone's mad. Danny, wow, real mature. You just had to make it about you. Kevin, you better fix this, man. You really messed up. I didn't respond. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I blocked them. All three. No long explanations. No, I'm sorry, but just silence. Then I opened my laptop and started digging. See, what they never realized was I didn't just pay for birthdays or cover bills out of kindness. I kept records. I had spreadsheets, bank statements, transaction histories. I knew exactly how much I'd paid for their nonsense over the years. Rent for Danny when she couldn't move out of her ex's place? $3,700. Car repairs for Kevin when he crashed his Nissan trying to drift in an empty parking lot? $1,850. My parents' electric bills, groceries, and medication copays for the last 14 months? $11,400. Add in holidays, gas money, random Cash App requests from cousins who just needed help till Friday, and it totaled over $23,000. 23 grand they all expected me to forget. So I didn't scream. I didn't go online and rage post about how unfair it all was. Instead, I printed everything. All of it. Neatly labeled, stapled, and packed into 3 identical manila envelopes. Then, for good measure, I included a short handwritten note. Since I'm just the pathetic one you keep around for money, here's a receipt for everything I've covered over the last 5 years. Don't worry, no need to pay me back. I'm finally cutting my losses. I mailed one to my parents, one to Danny, one to Kevin, and then I changed the password on the Netflix account they all still used. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but things were only just beginning to unravel. Because 3 days later, Kevin tried to pull one more stunt, and that's when everything really fell apart. Kevin's last stunt didn't come as a surprise, not really. I'd spent years watching him pull fast ones on friends, co-workers, girlfriends, you name it. The man could lie like it was a second language, fluent and polished, and he'd always find someone to believe him, especially if that someone was family. 3 days after the party, I got an email. Not a message, not a call, an official-looking email from the Lakeview Events Billing Department. It was short. Too short. Subject: Unpaid balance dispute. Lexington room rental. Dear Mr. Carter, we've received notice from Mr. Kevin Carter disputing the terms of your shared payment agreement regarding the Lexington room rental on June 14th. He has claimed the full balance was your responsibility and has requested our office contact you to settle the remaining amount. Please reach out within 48 hours to avoid further collection steps. Best regards, Sandra Pierce, Billing Department, Lakeview Events. I reread it 3 times. The rage didn't come all at once. It built, slowly, boiling in my chest like a kettle left on the stove. Kevin hadn't just thrown me under the bus. He'd gone and doubled down, trying to stick me with the entire $3,200 bill because he figured I'd rather just handle it than fight. That used to be true, but not anymore. I sat down at my desk and pulled open the folder where I'd kept all my contracts, receipts, and emails from the party. Within 5 minutes, I had everything lined up. The call recording where Kevin promised to pay half, the invoice marked pending under his name, the emails from the coordinator confirming our split payment plan. And then I sent my own email. Dear Sandra, thank you for the heads up. Please find attached a transcript of a phone call where Kevin agreed to cover 50% of the event. Screenshots of all our payment confirmations, my signed contract, a breakdown of expenses noting that my contribution has already been paid in full. If Mr. Carter continues to falsely dispute the agreement, I'll be forced to take legal steps. Let me know if you need a formal affidavit. Best, Marcus Carter. It felt good. Clean. Like standing up straighter after carrying too much weight for too long. No drama. No yelling. Just facts, organized and irrefutable. I didn't hear back for a day. But then, at 9:17 the next morning, Sandra replied, Mr. Carter, thank you for the detailed documentation. We've reviewed everything, and your portion of the balance is indeed settled. We'll be redirecting the full outstanding charge to Mr. Kevin Carter effective immediately. We apologize for the inconvenience. Sandra Pierce. And suddenly, it wasn't my problem anymore. Or so I thought. Because at 2:42 p.m., Kevin called me. 4 times in a row. Then twice more from a different number. Then once more from what I recognized as Danny's phone. I didn't pick up. A few minutes later, I got a message from him on Venmo, of all places. Kevin, dude, just cover it. I'll pay you back Friday. Then, Kevin, seriously, it's your fault they're mad. You didn't have to walk out. And finally, Kevin, whatever, man. Just remember we're still family. You can't run from that forever. No apology. No accountability. Just more emotional IOUs. I didn't answer. I didn't even open the app again. That night, I got dinner by myself for the first time in a long time. Sat on the patio of a little Italian place down the block. Ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, just because I could. And for once, I didn't feel guilty about it. I wasn't calculating in the back of my head how much I'd need to move around between accounts to cover for someone else's mistake. I felt free. But the silence didn't last long. Because by the end of the week, it wasn't just Kevin texting. It was my mom. Mom, your brother's in trouble, Marcus. Can't you just help him out this once? Mom, we raised you better than this. You don't turn your back on blood. And then, from my dad, who almost never texted. Dad, you're being cruel. Fix this before it gets worse. They weren't asking anymore. They were demanding. As if I owed it to them. As if years of bending over backward hadn't been enough. But I didn't fold. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I made one final change. I opened the shared family banking folder I'd been managing for almost 5 years. The one with recurring transfers, emergency funds, and monthly bill pay setups. The one I'd been quietly maintaining because nobody else really gets how that stuff works. And I removed myself from everything. I canceled every recurring payment with my name on it. I deleted my access to their online portals. I erased my billing information from every account that wasn't mine. I shut it all down. And then I sent one last message. Not angry, not cruel, just final. To Mom, Dad, Danny, and Kevin. Going forward, I will not be financially involved in this family's decisions. I've covered more than my share over the years, and instead of respect, I've received jokes and insults. I wish you the best. But I'm done. Marcus. I didn't expect a reply, but I got one. From Danny. Not a message. A screenshot. It was from Kevin's Facebook page. He'd posted some long, self-pitying rant about fake family and backstabbers and how some people only care about money. The caption was something like, "Blood doesn't mean loyalty. You know who you are." There were 100 comments already. And at the very bottom, one from my mom. We never should have trusted Marcus with anything. He always thought he was better than us. I stared at it for a while. Let it burn. Let it hurt. And then I closed the app. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I had one last move to make. And they never saw it coming. I'll be honest. That comment from my mom, it stung more than I expected. I stared at it longer than I should have. Read it. Reread it. Zoomed in on it like maybe I'd misread the words or misunderstood the tone. But no, it was clear. Cold. Final. We never should have trusted Marcus with anything. He always thought he was better than us. That sentence unraveled something inside me I hadn't even realized I'd been holding together. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was done. And that was far worse for them. They thought they were cutting me off. That I'd come crawling back. That guilt would eventually sink its claws in again. And I'd do what I always did. Smooth things over. Pay the tab. Fix the mess. They didn't realize I'd already planned my exit. Because here's the thing they never figured out. I had been preparing. Quietly. Slowly. Over years. Not out of malice. But out of necessity. When you're the one holding the family together, you start planning for the day they finally let go and expect you to keep hanging on. It started a year ago when I bought the duplex. It was a solid investment, 2 units, one for me to live in, one to rent out. I got a good deal because the owners were relocating out of state and needed to close fast. I put down 40% cash, secured a great rate, and even got a tax break for converting 1 unit into a home office. They didn't know I owned it. They still thought I was in a rental uptown. I had my reasons. See, back in 2021, I co-signed a personal loan for my parents. They promised it was just a safety net, a bridge while my dad changed jobs. But the payments had become my responsibility almost immediately. and they were never once on time with their share. Then there were the subscription services I set up temporarily for Danny when she switched apartments. Kevin had borrowed my info for just 1 week to help qualify for his new truck, only to default 6 months later. They had a history, a pattern, and I had finally started to build my escape. The duplex became my sanctuary. I moved in with zero fanfare, transferred my mail, changed every billing address, rerouted my deliveries, and gave out the unit's mailing address to only one person, my lawyer. Yes, my lawyer. Because a few months earlier, I'd also revised my will, designated financial power of attorney, and even created a family exclusion clause that formally removed Kevin, Danny, and my parents from any access to my assets. Not to be dramatic, but to be safe. And as I watched them drag my name through Facebook comments, I realized it was time to finish it. That night, I did one final sweep through everything. I called the credit bureaus and placed a permanent fraud alert on my identity. Froze all inactive cards. Changed every password. Moved my emergency savings into a new high-yield account under a trust name I'd quietly established last fall. Then I opened up an email I had drafted months ago. It was labeled, last line. It read, "To whom it may concern, this is to formally notify you that Marcus Carter will no longer serve as guarantor, co-signer, or responsible party on the following accounts: Chase Family Loan, Edison Power Utilities ACCT, Brightway Health Credit Account. Serious Car Finance Loan. Effective immediately, all payment obligations are hereby revoked under mutual consent per documentation attached. Supporting statements, notarized exit documents, and bank closures are enclosed. Any attempt to use my identity or information going forward will be considered fraud and will be prosecuted accordingly. Marcus Carter." Attached was every notarized revocation, every exit clause, every legal document I'd prepared in the event that one of them tried something desperate. I hit send and CC'd it to their shared family email, the one I knew they all still used to plan holidays and forward junk coupons. The silence afterward wasn't peaceful. It was sharp, like the world had suddenly gone quiet, but in the kind of way that warns a storm is coming. But nothing happened the next day. No messages, no calls, no emails. Then, on the second day, it began. First, a call from an unknown number. Then another. I let them go to voicemail. Then a text, this time from Danny. "I can't believe you sent all that. You're really trying to ruin us?" Then Kevin, "You're blowing this way out of proportion. The family's falling apart and it's your fault now." Then, finally, my mom. "I just got a call from the bank. The loan's frozen. They're talking legal stuff." "What did you do?" "No, how are you?" "No, I'm sorry." Just panic, rage, accusation. I ignored them all. I had done everything legally, slowly, and carefully. They weren't going to trap me again. Not this time. A week passed before I heard from someone unexpected, my uncle, my dad's brother. He'd always been decent, kept to himself, lived in Florida most of the year. He called me on a Sunday afternoon. "Hey, Marcus," he said, voice low. "Just wanted to say, I heard what happened, and I think you did the right thing. I didn't expect that." He continued, "I love my brother, but he's been leaning on you too long. They all have. You're not the villain here, kid. Just wanted you to know someone gets it." We talked for 15 minutes. Not about the fallout, but about life, work, baseball. It was the first conversation I'd had with a family member in years that didn't make me feel like a utility. When I hung up, I felt lighter. The real moment of closure came 2 months later. I was on my balcony, sipping coffee, when I saw a for sale sign pop up on my parents' front lawn via a listing Danny had posted on Facebook Marketplace, of all places. "Fixer-upper family home, urgent sale. Serious buyers only." I didn't gloat. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't send it to friends or post it online. I just nodded, because I knew what had happened. They couldn't afford the loan without me. The utilities were behind. Kevin's truck had probably been repossessed by now. Danny had lost her credit card privileges once I shut the family card down. And with their names blacklisted from most lenders, their financial world had started to collapse, piece by piece, the same way mine had started to heal. A few weeks later, Ellie, my niece, messaged me. Not on social media, not through her parents, but by actual letter. A real, handwritten letter. It was short, a little messy, but it broke me in a way nothing else had. "Hi, Uncle Marcus. I don't know why Daddy is mad at you, but I miss you. Thank you for my telescope. I still look at the moon. I wish you could come to my party next year. Love, Ellie. I cried. Just sat on my couch with that letter in my hands and let years of pent-up frustration and grief melt into something bittersweet. I wrote her back. Carefully. Honestly. I told her that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and sometimes families get complicated, but that none of it was her fault. I told her I'd always care about her, no matter what. And I gave her a P.O. box address to reach me anytime she wanted. As for the rest of them, they never got another cent from me. No more second chances. No more quiet forgiveness. I moved forward, built a life that wasn't built on guilt or obligation. And for the first time in 32 years, I started living for me. Not for the approval of a family that only saw me as useful, but for the peace of finally choosing myself. That was the real ending. Not a dramatic explosion. Not a courtroom battle. Just silence. Silence I earned. And silence I would never trade again.